Countertops are the center of the home, and we offer stylish options with durability that will last for years to come. Visit our kitchen showrooms in-store or go on Menards.com and get a free design estimate today. Plus, check out our weekly flyer for many other great deals happening this week.
Save big money at Menards.
Get started with your no-hassle refi checkup by clicking on the blue button at Accunet.com.
Tonight, the Bucks burn out the Miami Heat at Fiserv Forum.
Here's Damian Lillard, can't hit the three, but there is Giannis to slam it right back up and in.
Our coverage starts tonight at 6. We are your home for the Milwaukee Bucks. News Radio 620, WTMJ, Milwaukee.
9:01, 12 degrees. The high today, 20, sunny. Tonight, the wind chill does dip below zero, clear and cold. From the WTMJ Breaking News Center, I'm Eric Bilstead. 1,500 troops are on their way to the southern border, sent there by President Trump with an executive order. But that may just be the beginning of a much larger regular Army presence.
Trump officials are considering deploying 10,000 soldiers to the border and using U.S. bases to hold migrants awaiting deportation, according to an internal memo obtained by CBS News.
President Trump declaring a state of emergency along the U.S.-Mexico border. Here at home, big plans being outlined by the governor in his State of the State.
Of the multiple proposals announced, Governor Evers says that he wants to see more funding for services that benefit Wisconsin children, including pushing for universal breakfast and lunch in public schools.
Let's end school meal debt and make sure every kid has a healthy breakfast and lunch at school with no stigma at no cost.
But Assembly Speaker Robin Vos says all these programs will cost taxpayers.
What I think we heard here was a bunch of empty promises that will not be able to be delivered without either massive tax increases or massive spending cuts.
Sean Brinda, WTMJ News.
A triple shooting leaves one person dead, 2 others injured on Milwaukee's north side. This happened Wednesday evening near 39th and West. 22-year-old was killed. 2 others are in the hospital. Police do have a suspect in custody. That shooting comes hours after a 15-year-old died in a shooting near 28th and Atkinson. The chief diversity officer at UW-Madison is out. Dr. LeVar Charleston leaving his role as vice chancellor for inclusive excellence after concerns about the financial operations of the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Educational Achievement. He's led that division 3 years. He's still an employee of the university, but moving out of that role. Time now for News About Your Money. The WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update, checking the numbers as we get underway on Wall Street. Right now, the Dow is up 82, the NASDAQ down 109, and the S&P is down 7. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Sports, traffic, and weather next. Siding Unlimited, WTMJ News Time 9:03.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here, asking you to join me in October as my wife and I explore the magical kingdoms of Southeast Asia, from the villages of Vietnam and the temples of Cambodia to the friendly locals of Laos and the beachside resort in stunning, lively Thailand. I hope you'll join us for this unforgettable journey. Ancient and mysterious worlds of rural landscapes, bustling cities, and fascinating history in Vietnam. Explore the Chu Chi tunnels used by the Viet Cong. Experience a street food adventure through Hanoi and cherish the serenity of Hai Long Bay on a beautiful boat ride. Bangkok in Thailand, the beaches in Thailand, history, tradition, food. If you'd like more information on this great trip, send me an email. john.mercure@WTMJ.com. john.mercure@WTMJ.com. It's Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. I'm super jazzed about this trip. Send me an email. I send you the info. john.mercure, MERCURE, @WTMJ.com.
Visit family-owned Ken Michaels Furniture and our in-store design centers, where you'll still find beautiful, luxurious, heirloom-quality American-made furniture. Right now, save 30 to 35% store-wide and take advantage of our complimentary design services. Whether you're moving, renovating, or updating, our designers will help your vision become a reality. Visit Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield on Capitol Drive and in Greenfield on Highway 100 to save 30 to 35% store-wide today. Sleep better and save more with mattresses from Milwaukee Mattress and Ken Michaels Furniture. Handcrafted in our Milwaukee factory, our mattresses utilize natural materials like cotton cushioning, which dissipates body heat, Joma wool quilts for warm wintry nights and cool summer evenings, and natural latex providing superior conformability and pressure relief for aching joints. Stop in today at any Ken Michaels Furniture store and save up to 50% compared to national brands.
Time for a WTMJ Sports Update from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Desk. The Bucks are scheduled to play tonight at home against the Miami Heat. They're just not home yet. Bucks hoping to fly out from New Orleans today. The game last night against the Pelicans postponed because of the weather. They're hoping to get out today. Tip-off is set for 6:30. Our coverage on WTMJ begins at 6 p.m. College basketball, UW Milwaukee beats Wright State 95-79. The Panthers take on Northern Kentucky tomorrow on 101.7 The Truth. WTMJ Johnson & Sons paving time saver traffic. It's been slow in some spots. You're noticing it on 43 North, 94 northbound. This is north of the Mitchell, right around Howard. Right lane's blocked because of a vehicle that is disabled at the moment through that stretch. So you're seeing some slowdowns as you're driving around it on the left-hand side of things. You'll get through there, but it just is going to notice some brake lights there. Also, 94 eastbound Highway 16 to the zoo is on time, but it does get tight again near the stadium. You'll see that as you are squeezing through and getting into downtown. The WTMJ forecast for today: sunny, still cold today, high at 20. Tonight, clear, cold, a low of 4 with wind chills dipping to 5 below. For Friday, more clouds, slight chance for a flurry, a high of 20. Saturday, sunny and a high of 34. Sunday, sunny, a high of 27. Monday, partly cloudy and a high of 37 degrees on Monday. Right now in Milwaukee, 12. I'm Eric Bilstead, Outdoor Living Unlimited, WTMJ News Time 9:06.
Good morning, Wisconsin. So let's pour that coffee and talk to some experts about what's going on in Milwaukee, Madison, Washington, and beyond. Broadcasting live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue in beautiful downtown Milwaukee. It's the Political Power Hour on WTMJ. Here's your host, Steve Scaffidi.
Should we talk about the government?
Thanks for tuning in on this Thursday. Welcome to Political Power Hour. I have been looking forward to this show. I have a lot of contributors on this program, and I appreciate each and every one of them. Today's a little different. There's a lot going on. Obviously, we have a new president, and there's a lot of stories related to the incoming President Donald J. Trump. My friend, former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, is in studio for the entire hour, and as all my texters say when you're on, Jim, you are a brilliant attorney who understands very complex legal issues. That's why I'm so glad you're here today. We're going to dive into some of this stuff. We obviously have the executive actions of the incoming president. We'll get to some of those a little bit later. We have all the pardons, both the previous president, Joseph Biden, now Donald Trump, essentially assaulting the pardon process with a massive number. Just looking at the number of January 6th pardons, we're talking 1,000 plus or whatever it is. I think that's all probably under one order. But I guess my opening question for you is, this is an interesting time, and there's so much going on. We'll start with pardons. I mean, it's a practice that has been done forever by presidents, right?
Right, absolutely.
And you probably got examples, because I know you do your history.
Absolutely. So as long as you invited me to talk about history, we can talk about George Washington.
There we go.
Granted the first high-profile federal pardon to leaders of, yes, that's right, the Whiskey Rebellion, his final day in office. Andrew Johnson issued sweeping pardons to thousands of former Confederate officers. So there's history behind this, of course, as we know well. And all of that, you're absolutely right, Steve, as your listeners also would affirm, this is a constitutional thing, right? It's Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. The president shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in impeachment. And that's all the Constitution says about it. That's the pardon power. That's what's being exercised these days.
First question. Is that absolute?
And the answer is, although there's not a lot of authority out there on it, many people say it's not been fully tested. And I think I agree with that, simply because it's one of the few provisions in our Constitution granting authority to one branch of government that really does not, you can even eliminate the word really from that sentence, that does not have a check or balance on it, right? This is not a situation where the legislature can now go in and rescind or somehow overturn what either Biden or Trump has done or some previous president. And even the notion of judicial review of these things, yes, it's gotten to the Supreme Court in a couple of very notorious cases that we can talk about as well. A case called Garland, not our Attorney General, but also some other cases called Burdick. But the reality is that it is not a testable provision, and even the Supreme Court has said very, very notably in this case called Garland that the power conferred is unlimited, with some exceptions, extends to every offense known to the law, may be exercised at any time after the commission of the offense, before the legal proceedings, during the pendency, after. The power of the president is not subject to legislative control. Congress can neither limit the effect nor exclude from its exercise any class of offenders.
You mentioned legislative control. How about the review, yay or nay, by the U.S. Supreme Court?
Right, and the answer is most likely not, again, just because of the plenary grant of authority to the president. There have been a couple of cases that through collateral ways have gotten into the Supreme Court. There's this one case involving Garland, which has to do, again, with authority being granted there. And the other big one, of course, which leads to our other discussion, I suspect, my colleague and friend, and that is this Burdick case. It basically says that pardons are also an imputation of guilt, and the acceptance of a pardon carries with it an admission of criminal responsibility.
I'm glad you made that point, because the first thing we're going to talk about is the pardons of Joseph Biden.
Yes.
And if I'm using the wrong term, correct me. Preemptive pardons, is that the term where you're giving pardons that, like, I'm not a critic of Dr. Fauci, but a lot of people are.
Right.
He's protected. Others have been protected now by these preemptive pardons.
Exactly, and I think that's the right term. It certainly is not contemplated by the language of the Constitution, and even these couple of cases in the Supreme Court talk about the circumstances under which they're given. They talk also about whether or not you can refuse a pardon, and the answer is yes, you can.
And some of the pardons, the recipients have already said, I'm not interested.
We're not doing that, right? Interestingly, you can't refuse a commutation of sentence. That's a reduction in sentence. But as to pardons, again, you can refuse to do that. You raise Dr. Fauci. And again, this goes to the merits of what the president, typically through something called the Office of the Pardon Attorney at the Department of Justice, usually takes a look at. I think all of us are very, very sympathetic to what he says. He says there's absolutely no basis for these threats against me. Let me be perfectly clear. I've committed no error, no crime, no possible grounds for any allegation or threat. The mere articulation of these baseless threats, however, have created immeasurable, intolerable burdens for me and my family. And that I think was prompted these preemptive pardons as to him. And here's the concern, Steve, which I think is implicit, if not explicit, in your question, about which reasonable people, including all of your listeners this morning, can agree or disagree. That's the greatness of America, right, on this show. And that is that these folks, the preemptive pardons, whether you're a General Milley, Fauci, frankly, Joe Biden's family members, other people out there, the entire category of them, they're out there, they haven't committed crimes. And that's a significant matter for me, and I think for many people. Again, what is it that you are pardoning? And frankly, there are people like Adam Schiff and Adam Kinzinger who say, no, we don't want pardons because we're acknowledging then that a crime has been committed and there is none. And that's the argument against what Joe Biden has done in offering and establishing these preemptive pardons.
Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. Is there a lot of history on preemptive pardons? I'm not aware of it.
Right. The one that arguably people invoke from time to time is Gerald Ford in 1974,
yes,
saying, okay, Richard Nixon, he had been playing the articles of impeachment, heading plainly toward removal by the United States Senate. Never happened, but never charged, right? There was never an indictment in the grand jury system in the Department of Justice.
But there was substance there.
There was substance there, right? And so in the interest, as Gerald Ford Ford said, of bringing this national nightmare to a conclusion, I will grant basically the biggest preemptive pardon up to that point with respect to this now departing president. And it was broad. It basically went back and said any and all offenses that Richard Nixon may have committed during his term as president, whatever those might have been. So that's a big one that is certainly out there and underscores again, just because of the history on this, Gerald Ford for the rest of his life carried around in his pocket this little card that invoked this Burdick case. When people said, you let Richard Nixon off, why didn't you let him go be indicted and tried? He said Richard Nixon effectively acknowledged criminal conduct by accepting that pardon.
Fascinating case study
stuff,
on pardon. Jim Santel, former U.S. attorney, is my guest. We're just getting started on the Thursday edition. I'm moving ahead to Friday already. That would be Bill and Joe. If you have a question or comment, you can certainly fire it off at the Siding Unlimited, WTMJ talk and text line 855-616-1620. Think about this during the break, Jim. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has said as recently as yesterday afternoon, they're going to look at these pardons. I'm going to ask you what that means exactly, given what we just talked about. And then we're going to certainly explore the pardons of the current incumbent of the White House, President Donald J. Trump. All that coming up on the Thursday edition of the Political Power Hour. Thanks for listening, everybody. 620 WTMJ.
If Miami is really that beautiful,
Coming at you from beautiful downtown Miami Beach.
how come your best player doesn't even want to play there?
Jimmy Butler, he has wanted a trade out of Miami.
The Heat head up north to take on the Bucks.
Here's Damian Lillard. Can't hit the three, but there is Giannis to slam it right back up and in.
Our Bucks radio game day coverage starts tonight at 6. We are the home of the Bucks. WTMJ.
Hey,
I'm Tony Drake from Drake & Associates. Taxes in retirement could take a bigger bite out of your savings than ever before. With a rising tax environment, many retirees are worried about running out of money. At Drake & Associates, we understand those fears, and we're here to help you feel more confident about your retirement. That's why we're offering a free retirement toolkit and a copy of my book, Get Retirement Ready, to help you take control of your financial future. Don't let rising taxes catch you off guard. Text TAX to 414-897-9522 to claim your free resources. That's TAX to 414-897-9522.
Drake & Associates is an independent investment advisory firm that offers different investment vehicles. All insurance products are backed by the issuing insurance company. This commercial is provided for informational purposes only.
A buck doesn't buy much unless you're spending it at Griffin. For just $1 over cost, you can buy brand new tires from us. This is Jim Griffin. Any major brand, $1 over our cost with free tire repair and lifetime rotation. We'll even show you the invoice to prove it. Our only requirements, we put them on for you. Buy one or the whole set. The dollar deal from Griffin. Milwaukee, Waukesha, Fort Atkinson, and Jefferson. Griffin. The buck stops here. The deals on tires don't. That's Griffin.
Not combinable with other tire offers.
Oh, good ones today. They're all good, but this one is especially good. Former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel joining me in studio as he does on occasion. And we're talking about the legal implications of right now the pardons. We'll get to some of the executive actions, certainly, and all that stuff. I asked you before the break. You remember the question?
I do remember the question. What's the legislature doing here, right?
Yeah,
What's
so
going on?
They're saying basically we're now going to investigate the fact that the former president issued pardons for people who really have no crimes on the books.
Right, no crimes at all. However, again, opening up this portion of the discussion, you've got James Comer of Kentucky, House of Representatives, chair of the House Committee on Oversight. He is decrying the pardons issued by former President Biden as to his family, already saying these are confessions. They sold out, that is, the Bidens sold out the American people to enrich themselves. And again, it goes to this point of what is it you're pardoning individuals for if there have not been crimes? To your good point, Steve, yes, indeed. The United States Congress does have oversight responsibilities, and they exercise those quite liberally. Depending upon who is in power, those are the folks who manage and describe the agendas of the various committees, House and Senate. Can they entertain testimony, have hearings about what has happened? Can they entertain testimony about potential changes in the Constitution? Sure you can. Of course you can do those kinds of things. Can they rescind pardons? That answer is no. But along the way, can they bring all of these issues to the fore, have those very public discussions, much of which regrettably will be highly political as we anticipate, but nonetheless they can look at these things. You can get people who will come forward and talk about what happened.
Could they now recommend, this is sort of belaboring the point, but I think it's important, can they now recommend to their, let's be honest, politically friendly Department of Justice, we think additional things should be charged? Can they do something like that are maybe, or is it just a blanket pardon for everything?
Right. So again, they can certainly pass resolutions. They can certainly express sort of the will, frankly, not of a wild majority, but a will of, for example, the House or of the Senate, those kinds of things. And here's the other thing that is out there. I mentioned it just in passing, and that is normally, plainly, not recently, there is this entity inside the Department of Justice called the Office of the Pardon Attorney. If you and I were to apply for a pardon, again, let's make it clear for your listeners, you and I have not committed crimes, right, Steve? But if we were to apply, normally the process would be you'd send that into the Office of the Pardon Attorney. And it may well be, again, Congress has oversight of the Department of Justice. We know that routinely. It may well be that there could be some recommendations, even some legislation that would somehow change in some way the way in which the Office of the Pardon Attorney is constructed or operates. That could happen, but you can't address or try to overturn the particular pardons issued by a president.
Let's get to the current occupant of the White House, Donald J. Trump. 47th President of the United States issued a massive number of executive orders and pardoning more than 1,000 rioters, people convicted of violent crimes on January 6th, 2021. Just give me your general assessment of that. These are people that were convicted by a jury of their peers.
Right. Many of them, right? Yeah.
Most of the evidence is on video.
Right.
Or recorded in some fashion. Some of these things are pretty heinous. But yet the president decided, and you said he has that right, apparently.
He does.
Blankets. Now, I'll give a quick op-ed from my person with an opinion chair. I have talked about Donald Trump for 8 years. I've certainly... almost every subject, everything he's done, every accomplishment, and everything that a lot of people think aren't accomplishments are dangerous for this country. He blanketed all of them, and for me, the answer is he didn't want to dig in. He didn't want to look at the details. He just wanted to do it because he promised it there on the campaign trail. He said, you know what? They're all going to walk.
Right.
That's my take.
Mm-hmm. A very, very easy, broad brush thing to do. You've got an awful lot of people speaking about the legislature on Capitol Hill right now who had said prior to the Trump administration that this will be a case-by-case basis. Our vice president, J.D. Vance, has also said it will not be violent criminals, and we'll do this on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, none of that happened. That's the sort of particular file-specific review that an Office of the Pardon Attorney would do. That didn't happen here. The numbers very generally, 1,583 people arrested, 1,270 convicted, many of them on pleas of guilty to charges. The great majority of those are misdemeanor offenses. Many of them went to trial and were convicted, as you just said, Steve, by juries of their peers unanimously beyond a reasonable doubt. Here's some statistics just coming from the Department of Justice. Of those 1,583 arrested, 608 of them were violent. They're charged with either assaulting or impeding federal officers. And of those, get this, 174 were charged with this advanced and kind of enhanced version of a crime using deadly or dangerous weapons or inflicting bodily harm on the officer. Those are violent offenses, and those people have gotten pardons today, and the Bureau of Prisons yesterday and today are releasing them now into our communities.
Should note that the IACP, Chiefs of Police Association, and another big organization for police, and its names escapes me right now, I think it's a Fraternal Order of Police, issued strong statements saying that they do not like this wave of pardons.
And they were strong supporters of the president. They were strong supporters of Donald Trump.
So don't throw that away. So that's something that they really wanted to make that statement, because I think all the chiefs of police, and we're going to probably explore this when we get to the immigration stuff, they are concerned here.
Right.
One last thing on this before we take a break. One of these individuals has already been rearrested.
Right.
in Florida.
Right.
Sort of an amazing story, and I guess it speaks to the fact that some of these people are dangerous and violent.
Right. His name is Daniel Ball. He arrested on Wednesday on a pending federal gun charge.
Didn't take him long.
Right, exactly. He gets his pardon, and he goes out, and he is now subject once again to federal jurisdiction for gun charges. Again, those are violent offenses. They're not charged lightly by any U.S. Attorney's Office, any Department of Justice, under any administration. Daniel Ball, once again, back in the system as of this morning.
And I respect we will hear that story, or I should say expect we will hear that story revisited for other individuals, because these, in many cases, were very dangerous and violent people who don't necessarily have the community's best interests.
Enrique Tarrio, right? Stuart Rhodes, who was, again, as we talked before, Steve, back on Capitol Hill yesterday. These are the heads of the organizing groups, right? Proud Boys and so forth. These are the folks who were kind of the masterminds behind January 6th. And they are now also part of our community again by virtue of these pardons. The commutations is what they benefited from, reductions in their sentence.
Malcolm Gladwell, famous book, Tipping Point. Great book, read it. But somebody asked me yesterday, what is the tipping point where Donald Trump, the current incumbent of the White House, 47th President of the United States, could lose the public? Mm-hmm. If those individuals you just named show up in the Oval Office,
yes,
that's the tipping point in my mind.
Right.
That has to be the tipping point.
Right.
These are not individuals who represent anything positive about the future of this country.
Right. Donald Trump has said during the campaign that would be kind of neat to do, and now perhaps it's going to happen. We also know that 59% of the American population opposes these kinds of pardons and commutations.
The brilliant Jim Santel, as I call him, former U.S. attorney. We're going to continue the conversation. Lots to get to, executive actions. Can you have an executive action that overturns the Constitution? We'll get to all of those questions. If you have lots of comments coming in, I'll try to get to some of those as well. 620 WTMJ.
Wisconsin winters are unpredictable.
This is history. Never had a tornado touchdown in February.
We keep you updated on blizzards.
Winter storm warning has been issued for all of southeast Wisconsin, and it's going to get really, really dicey.
Blackouts.
Tens of thousands of customers across southeast Wisconsin are without power this morning.
Icy roads.
Very, very slick conditions pretty much everywhere.
And more. With WTMJ Fleet Farm Storm Team alerts on air and at WTMJ.com.
You got to get to Built Right today. Vince Vetrano to tell you about Built Right's extended New Year's mattress sale. Their one location saves you time and money, and they make it easy to shop, easy to buy. Built Right beats any big box, national or local chain store, department store, employee-free store, online retailer, or warehouse club because they have the guaranteed lowest prices. Built Right also has the best value, selection, and experienced team in Wisconsin. Over 60 models, 500 mattresses in stock. Choose from the best mattress brands made in the USA: Heirloom, Gold Bond, Therapeutic, Restonic, and Schiffman. Built Right specializes in hard-to-find, flippable, two-sided, and heavy-duty mattresses that hold up to 600 pounds. Plus, Built Right offers free delivery and removal on mattress-only purchases of $7.99 or more. Built Right saves you money. Voted best place to shop. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday, closed to be with family. Make sure to tell them Vinny sent you to Built Right, just off of 894, 54th and Layton Avenue in Greenfield.
We've saved our clients over $19 million in real estate commission. I say this because that's a pretty big number. But at Century 21 Benefit Realty, it's really not about being a top volume agency. Over here, it's more about you. And at 1.9% commission and no more than $19,000 commission, for the listing side of your sale, no matter what size property you're selling, you will save substantially. This is Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty, benefit-realty.com, where you pay less for full service. Each office is independently owned and operated. First off, our 1.9% commission structure helps get their foot in the door, and that's why agents like working here. But what they really like is having the strongest marketing tools available, with the resources to help them sell homes at the highest prices to satisfy their clients. Century 21 Benefit Realty offers what agents like most, and that's to help them be successful. If you really want to believe in the business model that you're representing, give me a call. I'm Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty. Call me, and let's talk about your future. Each office is independently owned and operated. Incorporated.
Here in Wisconsin, one name is synonymous with fantastic frozen pizza, Palermo's. For almost 60 years, Palermo's has focused on feeding Wisconsin families. And though Palermo's has grown a lot since 1964, they're still family-owned. They're still proud to call Milwaukee home. And they're still committed to making the best frozen pizza possible. From their new and improved rising crust pizzas to their guilt-free Primo thin pies, Palermo's has a delicious slice for every appetite. Find Palermo's in your local grocer's freezer food aisle. Palermo's, flavor is our family's business.
400 of the people that you pardoned, though, assaulted officers. So I want to ask you about the Vice President, J.D. Vance. He said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your Vice President wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail. They should not have served, and they've served years in jail, and murderers don't even go to jail in this country.
That's the comments of the current occupant of the White House, Donald J. Trump, talking about the pardons to the J6 convictions and those essentially criminals who are now, many of them, I think all of them free now, or are there some still in process?
There are still some in process, and you've got a few cases that we have to look at again to figure out exactly what has happened to particular defendants out there. But the great majority, again, Bureau of Prisons releasing them, commutations of sentences, and it is pretty much completed. Sorry, so we'll pose the question to you. You can think about it during the break. The constitutionality of a president issuing executive action that is in direct conflict with the U.S. Constitution. I'm talking about birthright citizenship. We'll get to that one with our guest and frequent contributor to my program, Political Power Hour, former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel. Lots to talk about today. We're going to get to some of the directives that are now coming out of the White House to U.S. attorneys across this country. Some who won't even be here in a month maybe or so, because they're going to be new ones. All that coming up on the program. And, of course, we always close our Thursday show with closing arguments. We have local news coming up with Tiff Pua. Here's the latest from ABC.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Firefighters are battling the Hughes fire north of Los Angeles. The wildfire, fueled by dry conditions, has burned 16 square miles and forced about 50,000 evacuations or warnings. Portions of Interstate 10 in Louisiana and Florida remain closed due to snow cover this morning. The storm dumped record snow across the Gulf Coast, giving way to frigid below freezing temperatures this morning. There's been a little more slippage in the job market.
In the week just ended, 223,000 first-time jobless claims were filed, about 2,000 more than analysts were anticipating. The biggest increases came from Michigan, California, and Texas. The number of Americans actually receiving benefits is up to 1.9 million, an increase of 46,000 from the mid-month reading.
ABC's Jim Ryan. The 2025 Academy Award nominations announced this morning. The Netflix narco musical about trans identity Emilia Perez led with 13 nominations, including Best Picture. This is ABC News.
Outdoor Living Unlimited WTMJ News Time is 9:31. I'm Tiff Pua. Rescued from the icy Lake Mendota overnight, the Madison Fire Department responded to a call near Picnic Point just before 11 p.m. Wednesday night. A man used his cell phone flashlight as a beacon to help firefighters spot him about 3/4 of a mile from the UW campus boat ramp. The lake rescue team rescued the man from the water, and he was taken to the hospital. He said he was walking on the ice when he fell through, being in the water for approximately 20 minutes. Masterlock's parent company will close its office in Oak Creek. Fortune Brands Innovations is consolidating operations to its Deerfield, Illinois location. The news comes about 10 months after Masterlock closed its historic plant on Milwaukee's north side. The Milwaukee Business Journal reports that the move will affect about 120 employees in Oak Creek. The relocations are expected to be completed by September. And the Milwaukee Area Technical College enters an agreement with the Bucks to share an athletic training facility in the Deer District on Wednesday. It will be built across from Fiserv Forum and just blocks from MATC's downtown campus. The proposed 7-story building would house a 28,000 square foot double gymnasium, fitness center, and meeting rooms on the ground floor, plus apartments and over 275 parking spaces. The project will break ground this summer, with the first games coming in the fall of 2026. Time for news about your money. Here's your WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. A mixed bag on the board today. Your Dow is up 73 points to 44,230, but your S&P 500 is down 6 points to 6,080, and the NASDAQ is down 81 points to 19,928. Financial planning at every level. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite. Details at annexwealth.com. Taking a look at your roads with your WTMJ Johnson & Sons Paving Time Saver traffic, we definitely have disabled vehicles on the roads today. The first one is at 43 north at the ramp to Port Washington, the left shoulder is blocked with a disabled vehicle. 94 west at the Stadium Interchange, 175 north. The right shoulder's blocked. There's 2 disabled vehicles, but they're in that little rampway, so just be careful of those. And there's one more disabled vehicle, 43 north, about 3/4 of a mile from Moreland Road. The left shoulder is blocked with that vehicle, but it's out of traffic and not causing any delays. Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast today. Mostly sunny and still cold with a high of 20. Tonight, clear and cold with low of 4, with the wind chill dropping down to 5 below 0. For your Friday, increasing clouds with a slight chance of afternoon flurries, a high of 20. Saturday, mostly sunny with a high of 34. Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 27. And for your Monday, partly cloudy with a high of 37. In Cedarburg, it's 11 degrees. In East Troy, it's 10. And in Milwaukee, it's mostly sunny and 12 degrees. I'm Tiff Pua. Outdoor Living Unlimited. WTMJ News Time is 9:34.
Our favorite reason to choose Diamonds Direct over any other jeweler? Free service for life with no fine print. That's right. When you buy your engagement ring or any piece of jewelry at Diamonds Direct, you will never have to pay a dime in the future for sizing, cleaning, or routine maintenance. At Diamonds Direct, there's no gotcha clause, no fine print, no looking for ways to void the warranty. Diamonds Direct, the jeweler you can trust with a no questions asked 100% free lifetime warranty with no strings attached. Come see us to learn more.
Reason number 52 to choose Diamonds Direct over any other jeweler. Only Diamonds Direct gives you a 110% diamond upgrade guarantee. Diamonds Direct will give you 110% of your original purchase price toward the new stone. That's 10% more than you paid the first time. Guaranteed appreciation. Who else does this? There's no fine print and no minimum purchase requirement. It's 10% more, period. Buy with confidence. Diamonds Direct. Your love, our passion.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here, asking you to join me in October as my wife and I explore the magical kingdoms of Southeast Asia, from the villages of Vietnam and the temples of Cambodia to the friendly locals of Laos and the beachside resort in stunning, lively Thailand. I hope you'll join us for this unforgettable journey. Ancient and mysterious worlds of rural landscapes, bustling cities, and fascinating history in Vietnam. Explore the Chu Chi tunnels used by the Viet Cong. Experience a street food adventure through Hanoi and cherish the serenity of Hai Long Bay on a beautiful boat ride. Bangkok in Thailand, the beaches in Thailand, history, tradition, food. If you'd like more information on this great trip, send me an email. john.mercure@wtmj.com. john.mercure@wtmj.com. It's Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. I'm super jazzed about this trip. Send me an email. I send you the info. john.mercure, MERCURE, @wtmj.com.
Oh, we got a good second half hour of the Political Power Hour on 620 WTMJ. My guest, former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel. And you want to hear closing arguments today, not just from Jim Santel, but from mine as well, because I'm going to speak directly to a local issue that has really bothered me since it broke yesterday. And I'm not pulling any punches. We will get to that in a little bit. All right, I asked you, Jim, before the break, birthright citizenship.
Birthright citizenship.
Written in the Constitution, not just made up at some point.
It is not. You
It's
didn't
there.
make it up. I didn't make it up. Your listeners didn't make it up. It's Amendment 14 of the Constitution, July 9th, 1868, ratified by the states. Here's the first sentence of Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That's the first sentence. Now, what's happening here is apparently we're going to get some reinterpretation of that to suggest that it doesn't mean what it says or say what it means. Apparently invoking this language, the jurisdiction thereof, and that's what lawyers are apparently going to be arguing about. The answer is the president does not have the authority to change the Constitution by stroke of a pen. And although this is going to be in court now, we're going to have district court judges and appellate court judges, maybe the Supreme Courts of the states of our nation, maybe the United States Supreme Court, pontificating on what this means. We shouldn't be spending our time on this. This is a non-starter. It is a non-legal issue. It is, at the risk of sounding sort of flip on this, Steve, it is the legal equivalent of declaring to our map makers that it's now the Gulf of America, right? There's no there. This is not real. And regrettably, it takes up our time and our atmosphere in America.
The president said when he announced this executive action, we think we have good grounds to move on. He also said this, and this is going to be one of those fact checks that I'm going to do a lot of this year because I think it's important. President said this, President Donald J. Trump, we're the only country in the world that does this. That's what he said out loud, recorded.
Yep.
Here's the facts. Not true. At all. Not even close.
Right.
Dozens of countries, Canada, Mexico, most of South America, and countries across Europe.
Right.
So you can call it a misstatement. Some people might call it a lie if they're looking at it in political terms. But that's a fact. I was going to say, Jack, going back to a Bill Murray movie that I love. But that's the reality. He said something that's not true. And I like to remind my political friends, because they sometimes don't get this. Political lying is still lying.
Right.
There may not be the penalties you get from your pastor or your faith leader, but it's still lying. And the President of the United States, when he announced this, either misspoke or lied about the reality in our world.
And it's important, right? This is not just a flip misstatement. It is the kind of thing that Americans listen to. We regard the presidency with some stature. And when the president misstates, lies, provides us with false information about the way the world works, that is hugely dangerous to the future of our nation. In a tape that you played earlier in this hour, Steve, the president also said murderers don't go to jail in the United States of America. Flatly untrue. Flatly untrue.
We've been
and
accused
that's
of having
dangerous.
too many murderers in jail.
Right. That's a part of the issue, and it makes you wonder out loud again. Again, we read out loud the first sentence. The other important language, of course, of Section 1 of the 14th Amendment talks about the privileges and immunities of citizens. It talks about due process, life, liberty, and property not deprived based upon and without due process. No deprivation of equal protection of the laws. Can the president now simply, again by a stroke of a pen, reverse that and say we no longer have due process under the 14th, maybe the 5th Amendment as well?
I'm asking you that question.
Right?
Can that person do that?
And the answer needs to be, and all Americans need to embrace the notion that it's got to be an emphatic no. This was ratified by the states, again, back in 1868. It is the predicate upon which the Supreme Court, ever since then, frankly, even before then, has decided very important cases in the civil rights area, the human rights area. This is a part of a fabric of our nation, and the president is simply wrong to go down this road.
For all the gun owners out there, I'm going to take it a different direction because most people aren't expecting this. So you cite the Constitution for your right to bear arms, and in that very short little statement.
Right.
And you can read it in a second. So if a Democratic president or someone who's not a fan of guns and your ownership of guns says in an executive action, no, we're not going to honor that piece of the Constitution, what would your reaction be to that?
Right. Exactly.
What would that reaction
be?
Exactly. And I guess you'd be upset.
I think there are an awful lot of people would be upset, especially since, again, rightly or wrongly, our Supreme Court has said in these cases called Bruin and Heller and Antonin Scalia and Clarence Thomas has said that well-regulated militia means you've got a personal right to gun ownership in America. You can carry it under certain restrictions in the public domain. That's the law of our nation right now, premised upon the language of the Second Amendment, premised upon the interpretation given it by our United States Supreme Court. An awful lot of people, as we can do in this nation, will disagree with that, but that's the law. And again, for the president, under any circumstance, you're good hypothetical here, to simply issue a piece of paper and sign it and say no more, that's not how it works.
And so many of my Republican friends, we'll go to break with this one. You have defended the Constitution on many occasions for many different reasons. But on this one, are we willing to just let it go because you like the person who is sitting in the Oval Office? That's the question. All right, after the break, there's other things going on, and that's directives to U.S. attorneys across this country. Jim's going to fill us in on that. And don't forget closing arguments. We've got a really good one today. Lots going on. Political Power Hour, 620 WTMJ.
By now, you've probably figured out what's most important to us at Semper Fi is our reputation. Building a great character-driven remodeling company is actually quite easy. It's just the first 20 years that are a bit challenging. Great companies are collections of great people, and we have great people. They're the ones that helped us build our reputation, but they only come after you've built something they want to be part of. We don't necessarily have to look for good people. They come to us. And that's what you want when you hire an exterior remodeling company. Someone who's going to stand behind their work, and a company that is truly proud of their people. And it's because they do great work. And when you're ready, we'll do great work for you too. This is Brad Youngluth with Semper Fi Roofing and Exteriors, your local, veteran-owned and operated exterior remodeling company. For your new roof, siding, window and door installation, or masonry work, you can count on Semper Fi to keep you safe, warm, and dry.
We keep you safe, warm, and dry. Semper Fi.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi for Annex Wealth Management. You might have been planning on more gym time this year. That's a common New Year's resolution. Or to hold your emotions in check during the traffic jams, or to put up with a relative of yours that drives you crazy. We all have those. Can't win them all. How about actually nailing a goal before January ends? How about doing something about your investment and retirement planning to finally take that step? Get with Annex to get things in order for not just this year, but beyond. You heard me talk about this. Maybe your friends and neighbors, too. It's time. Tell your friends. An investment retirement plan built by the fee-only fiduciaries at Annex Wealth Management makes so much sense. Head to AnnexWealth.com, click the Get Started button. Annex makes it convenient. They can handle it all: retirement investment planning, tax planning, estate planning. Just did this last year. One stop. You can meet via Zoom or at one of their great 8 convenient locations. There is a significant difference, trust me, between financial advisors. Know that difference. Start at AnnexWealth.com.
Find furniture for life from Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield, Greenfield, or downtown Milwaukee.
Chronic joint pain has a snowball effect. It's not just the pain.
What that did is just make me depressed that I couldn't get back into the gym, and I was inactive, gaining weight. I had to find another alternative.
And for Chad, that alternative was QC Kinetics and the non-surgical natural biologic treatments that can give lasting relief to aching hips, shoulders, knees, and backs.
Once they explained it, it made sense. Putting what we have inside our body back into us in a certain strategic way to heal up in a natural process was fantastic.
QC Kinetics treatments take place right in the office. No downtime, no surgery. And as for the outcome,
I'm just back to bouncing around, having fun, doing my work, living pain-free.
Don't let chronic joint pain rob you of your quality of life. Discover advanced regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics. Call now to learn more. It's a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. 414-285-3474.
Thanks for tuning in on this Thursday edition. Don't forget Bill and Joe, Bill McCosher, Joseph Pecky, my strategist, guys, friends, and experts on all things politics. And it's going to be a busy and probably a little tense tomorrow here because there's a lot to talk about this week. We'll do that tomorrow. Thank you, Jazz. Producer Jazz doing a great job as always. All right, Jim Santel. So all the stuff we talked about, pardons, executive orders, and the constitutionality of all that stuff. And now the latest piece is certainly, and this is one of the things that's going to be talked about very often this year, is immigration and border policy.
Yes.
One of the things that's happening, and you told me this, I wasn't aware of this, that there are directives being issued to, is it law enforcement, U.S. attorneys? What's happening?
Yes. So this is a 3-page memorandum. Comes out yesterday from a fellow named Emile Beauvais, who's right now in charge of the Department of Justice. You may recall he was sitting next to the now current president during the course of his prosecution, the criminal prosecution in New York. He was one of his former defense team members. He's now the department's acting deputy attorney general, who become what's called the principal associate deputy attorney general once others are confirmed. He issues a 3-page memorandum just yesterday, and it is guidance to all department leaders and all U.S. attorneys, 93 U.S. attorneys nationwide, that basically says that if there are state and local law enforcement authorities out there who are declining to enforce the policies of the president when it comes to immigration, probably focusing a lot, Steve, on Chicago, maybe as the initial focus of what the president's going to do, the U.S. attorneys should open investigations of them and prosecute them criminally for their failure to cooperate.
What does that mean?
That basically means that they're directing, again, without a whole lot of specificity. The memorandum does invoke the very statute under which Donald Trump was indicted. That's plainly intentional by Mr. Beauvais and making the point there. But it basically is a directive. And again, the Department of Justice on a regular basis issues memorandums to U.S. attorneys providing guidance on how things are to be enforced. The difference here, and the reason why I find this so troubling, and I suspect U.S. attorneys, present and past, of all political sides of the aisle here, it is this notion that somehow cooperation between law enforcement is not what we're after. You and I, Steve, have a common historical link, and that is August 5th of 2012. You and I both remember that when that happened at the Sikh temple, this horrific event, civil rights event, human rights event, hate crimes event happened. What happened? Federal, state, and local law enforcement, frankly, from around the country, but certainly around the state, you were responsible. I was responsible for coordinating that in many, many ways. That's the way in which law enforcement properly works. One of the first concerns, among many others, in this memorandum is this notion that we're now going to pit the federal authorities against state and locals.
I was just going to go there. I think you run the risk of pitting agencies against each other, totally violating the spirit of cooperation, communication that you just highlighted going back to August 5th, 2012.
Absolutely. And what you're doing is you're also sending these messages about chilling behavior, right? We also acknowledge that state and local law enforcement officers, unlike federal officers, have their own jurisdictions. And again, important to note, the president himself has no capacity to tell a local sheriff, tell a local police officer, police chief what to do. But again, through task forces that are part of the history recently, when I was U.S. Attorney, present U.S. attorneys, past U.S. Attorney, we bring them all together to talk about cooperation. This sends a wedge into that and also raises the question, is this criminal conduct of the sort that we want prosecuted? The investigations are directed to be open, raises a lot of questions about what U.S. attorneys will do if they, especially in Chicago, are compelled by the president, by the Department of Justice, to open an investigation of, fill in the blank, Lake County, Cook County law enforcement. What do you do under those circumstances?
I think we'll be talking about a lot of those developments in the weeks and months ahead. Jim Santel, closing arguments on the final segment of the Political Power Hour on 620 WTMJ. Next.
The only place to get this.
Every twist and turn you could possibly dream of is playing out tonight. Are you kidding me?
With some of this.
We are the Bucks, Justin.
You're a member of the team now. Okay.
Well, I have the tattoo on my arm, so I kind of am.
Get it all on Bucks Talk, your all-encompassing Milwaukee Bucks postgame show with Justin Garcia and Brandon Snide. Only heard here on the home of the Bucks, WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi. For Avon, I had snoring issues, tossing and turning, restless nights to sleep. That's history. That's no longer. Last night, I actually woke up early. I was so rested and refreshed. My wife goes, why'd you wake up so early? I was done sleeping. I'm staring at the alarm clock. I'm like, get out of bed. Had to shovel the driveway. To put it simply, my nose wasn't working the way it should. I went to Advent, 30-minute visit, tops, maybe less than that. Put me at ease, answered my questions. Now, everybody's different problems, different solutions. Mine was sinuses and nasal passage in my breathing triangle. After a very short procedure in one of their great offices, back to breathing better than ever, sleeping through the whole night. That can be your reality as well. If you struggle like I used to, take the time to see how Advent can help you. To find out breathing well and sleeping well can make your nights better. Go to adventknows.com, schedule an appointment today, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Outdoor Living Unlimited puts cool stuff in your yard. Patios, decks, pergolas, outdoor kitchens, screen rooms, even in-ground pools. You dream it, we design it together, then Outdoor Living Unlimited installs it for you. OutdoorLivingUnlimited.com.
I know, January's here. WTMJ's John Merck here. If you have the January blues, start your weekend tonight with a free dinner at the historic Fox and Hound Supper Club, voted the best supper club in the area. Enjoy any steak, the seafood, the pan-fried walleye, a fresh salad, steak and lobster, the ribs, the pasta, any dinner on the menu. Your second dinner is free. Desserts and those huge ice cream drinks. Also, buy one, get one free. Sip on an old-fashioned, a Manhattan. Check out the bourbon. 100 wines on the new wine list. The Fox and Hounds in the heart of the Kettle Moraine Forest is a one-of-a-kind gem. The holiday decorations are still up with thousands of lights. The Christmas characters. It's a must-see, and those 7 wood-burning fireplaces will keep you warm on a cold January night. Weekends might be too busy for some, so enjoy a quiet, romantic dinner tonight at the Fox and Hounds, just off Highway 167, 2 miles east of the famous Holy Hill Shrine. The drive is beautiful. Start your weekend tonight with a free dinner. Reserve at foxandhoundsrestaurant.com.
At Uline, they know going the extra mile takes hard work. For companies pushing to go further, Uline will go the distance with you. 24/7, they answer the phone to get you the shipping and industrial supplies you need. Business can move fast. Unexpected large orders, adverse weather. new safety guidelines, and changing economic trends, Uline works hard keeping 41,000 items ready to ship, minimizing detours on your way to the extra mile. Visit uline.com.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station. Now it's time for your closing arguments.
Former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, you have the floor.
Steve, early in our broadcast, your broadcast here on this fine station this morning, we talked about pardons. One of the footnotes that is also a part of this story is with respect to those defendants who've been charged by the Department of Justice, by the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., but not yet convicted. There was a directive from the White House to the Department of Justice to dismiss those charges. Now, we can talk, as we've talked in the past, about the impropriety of even that. That is the notion that a president is now directing who to be prosecuted and who should not be prosecuted. But here's the important takeaway on all of this. When you move to dismiss charges, as now the Department of Justice, through the assistant U.S. attorneys and DOJ attorneys are doing, you have to get leave of court. There's a federal rule that says you don't just go in and file a document. The judge has to put her or his imprimatur on that. There's a specific rule about that. And the specific request here was that these cases be dismissed with prejudice, meaning they'll never come back. What happened yesterday was we got 3 different federal judges in the District of Columbia who pushed back on that and said, you know what, I'm going to do this. We have got very little discretion. We've got to go ahead and dismiss them. But all 3 of them said, I'm not going to go ahead and do this with prejudice. I'm going to do it without prejudice, which keeps the case arguably alive. And more importantly, and this is the closing argument, here's what Judge Beryl Howell says in response to the basis for the dismissals. The government, the White House, the Department of Justice says, we're doing this to correct an injustice, a national injustice, and national reconciliation requires that we do this. She says it's flatly wrong. It was a revisionist myth. She says there's no national justice that occurred here, just as no outcome determinative election fraud occurred in the 2020 election. No process of national reconciliation can begin when poor losers whose preferred candidate loses an election are glorified for disrupting a constitutionally mandated proceeding in Congress and doing so with impunity. Judge Tanya Chutkan, who was until recently presiding over the case against Donald Trump, likewise says, what's going on here, we cannot whitewash the blood. She says the feces and the terror that the mob left in its wake. I cannot repair the jagged breach in America's sacred tradition of peacefully transitioning power. In hundreds of cases like this one over the past 4 years, judges in this district have administered justice without fear or favor. The historical record established by these proceedings must stand unmoved by political winds as a treatment and as a warning. Goes on to say another judge, Judge Kohler Catelli, that the immutable record of violence and heroism of law enforcement remains forever enshrined in our history. That's the closing argument today for Americans who are concerned about the exercise of these pardons. History does not erase them, and judges are not going to erase this either.
Brilliant work, as always. You even got the applause from the producers. Doesn't happen all the time. I wanted to say this because a lot of people have been asking about it, and thanks to all of you who have reached out to me, text, email, and everything in between. A local weather forecaster, meteorologist, Sam Kuffel, was fired essentially by Channel 58 in Milwaukee. And I've never met Sam, but I know her very well through her online presence and certainly watching her on TV. She is a wonderful person. I sent her a brief note last night saying, you are an awesome person. Don't let anybody tell you different. But I'm speaking to Channel 58 here. You have rules. We all have rules, and we understand what those rules are. And in this case, the not an accusation because she admitted that she did it, apparently to her station, that she communicated through social media about the conduct and the actions of one Elon Musk. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google Nazi salute or any of that stuff, and you'll see. Now, we can all interpret what Elon Musk did in different ways, a wide variety of ways. I said whether it's a Roman salute or a Nazi salute, don't really care. I said he knew what he was doing. And he did it anyway. Set that aside. I understand that there are rules. But in this case, the punishment far outweighs any form of justice that should be for someone who expresses opinion, which, by the way, is a pretty popular opinion. Shame on CBS 58. Shame on their management group. Shame on anybody who really thinks this is a fireable offense. And shame on us if we allow this to go on. Because what's next? Those of us who do what I do, we will be targeted because we said something you didn't like, which is cast a wide net over all the people who do this, including people in our market who do this every day. And oh, by the way, maybe you'll be fact-checked on some of the things you say. And you want to be held accountable for those things? I know it's popular to lie about politics, but boy, oh boy. To Sam Kuffel, I have your back. And to CBS 58, shame on you for this action. Inexcusable. And oh, by the way, this is a woman meteorologist. We don't have a ton of those. Also shameful. Thanks for listening. U.S. Attorney Jim Santel will do it again.
Always a pleasure to be with you, my friend. Take care.
News is next on 620 WTMJ.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here for Vita Hearing Care. My life is better. My wife's life is better because of Vita Hearing Care. I have hearing aids from Vita. The testing process was